Now, how can we close the gender pay gap, and do women need more role models at work? The data scientist, entrepreneur and the founder of Female Lead, Edwina Dunn, certainly thinks so, and she joins me now from London. Good morning to you. Thanks very much for speaking to us today. First of all, tell us a bit about why you set up Female Lead.
Well, good morning. I set up the Female Lead because my career, which is, as you rightly say, data science and technology, was an incredibly male-dominated world. And I worked with retailers and consumer goods companies all over the world. And I noticed that everywhere I went, I was probably the only female in the boardroom. And so I thought, how do girls navigate this? How do they find role models that they can identify with? Because I believe that, it's only through role models you can actually identify and therefore take that path on your own, and it helps to inspire you.
What do you respond, though, to...
And so based...
Go ahead, excuse me.
I'm sorry. The Female Lead was set up to celebrate amazing women and to showcase them, women who shape the world around us. And what we wanted to show was the extraordinary achievements and the diversity of women all over the world, so that girls and boys can start to relate to their own stories, to their success, and push their own ambitions a little further when they start to reach out for their career.
Yeah. I wonder, though, what you say to some of the criticism that it's all well and good finding role models for women, but that there are actually far bigger structural issues at play, the gender pay gap being just one of them, and that finding a role model alone isn't enough to combat some of those problems.
Well, the gender pay gap exists, but it's partly the role that women take in society because of the norms that have been established. And until women see themselves in equally challenging roles, until they find their path towards that, it's extremely hard for that to be equalised. They have to believe they can achieve these higher level roles within organisations to demand the same pay for the same job. And until they have that confidence and belief, it's not going to happen. So I don't think it's a different problem. I think it's all part of the same problem.
I wonder then, it sounds like you think it's women who need to change their attitudes perhaps more than men do.
I think women need to believe in themselves, and I think if we don't tell stories of the many ways that women can shape the world, how they can change things, then we end up with a very one-dimensional view of what it's okay for women to do. I mean, when I grew up, I was told I could be a teacher, a secretary, or what was the other one? A teacher, secretary, or nurse. Never a doctor, it was a nurse. And so, I grew up in that era. I was fortunate in the job that I found and the creativity I was allowed to use, that I found a different path, and I forged my own career. And this book that we published, The Female Lead, is 60 women who've found their own path. And, it's not been easy. And they talk about all the things that went wrong. And this is something we're gifting to 18,000 schools across the UK and the US, so that school children can see this is what they can do, and they need to make up their own story.
Yeah, and just very briefly before we let you go, can I just ask you, what about the role of diversity in all of this? Because this is presumably not just about white women and not just about middle-class women. We want to inspire women, whatever their background and skin colour. Yeah,
and I think as we look at our workforce, you know, we know that diversity is important. We need people to fulfill different roles. And if we don't speak to that, if we don't show women of all ages, of all ethnic backgrounds, of all beliefs, if we don't show those, then we start to suggest it's only certain types of people who can be successful, and it's simply not true. We are made in many shapes, colours, ages, and we should be celebrating that and repeating those stories. And women in particular should be helping other women come up through the ranks and giving them that extra encouragement. And so the more we talk about this, the more we encourage people, the more will come through and be part of our future talent pool, which we need if we're to be a digital enabled economy and help head up the future technologies that are going to define our world.
All right, Edwina Dunn, unfortunately we'll have to leave it there, but thank you very much for your time on France 24 this morning.